Friends, we are going to be diving in today to talk a little bit more about the how-to of taming the tongue. And I hope that you joined us just a few days ago for a deeper conversation about why that is so difficult and what that really can look like, the blessing and the goodness that can come to our families and our relationships when we are using our words intentionally and taming our tongues. So if you haven't listened to that more big picture, deeper conversation about taming our tongues, I would definitely encourage you to circle back to that episode. But today I wanted to just talk for a few more minutes about Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19, and how this helps us get a picture of what it might look like to tame our tongues when it is difficult. Because obviously when life is rosy and perfect and the house is clean and the kids are following all the rules and you had a date night and it was great and life is good, taming the tongue is not that difficult. But on a regular day, it can get a bit trickier. So welcome back to the Love Your People Well podcast for a great conversation, always with the goal of helping you enjoy family life and deepen those family relationships. And if you can't tame your tongue and you're not working in that direction, it's going to be really hard to enjoy those relationships and that time with your very favorite people. So I'm glad that you're here. My name is Jess, and I'm the host of the Love Your People Well podcast. I'm a wife and a mom and a counselor, and I'm working very intentionally on trying to grow in the Lord in how I use my words and my tongue with my people. So this is definitely something I am thinking and praying through regularly. And as we dive into this shorter kind of follow-up conversation, I'll remind you to grab a ton of great resources over at loveyourpeoplewell.com. There's a free conflict resolution checklist that might be helpful for you. There's a whole devotional, 40-day devotional on emotional control and managing anger. There's a whole devotional on communication in marriage, which can be particularly tricky. So lots of great resources over at loveyourpeoplewell.com. But let me just read this proverb for us and then talk it through a little bit. So Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19 says, "Sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues." And that, that's probably exactly what it means to tame the tongue. It means that you are in control of the words that you speak. You're in control of when you speak them, of what those words are. You're in control of how you say those words, if you say those words. There is a lot here, and I really think it's helpful that this proverb calls out sin for what it is. And when I think about that, sin is not ended by multiplying words. That points me straight toward the two biggest root causes of struggling with our tongue, which is our emotions get the best of us, or our pride is getting the best of us. And in both cases, our natural instinct is often to multiply words because we're trying to convince the other person or make them do something. We're trying to achieve a certain outcome. And there's this natural human instinct to get louder or to talk more, obviously with maybe a good goal, the goal of helping our kids be obedient or do what they're supposed to do, the goal of helping someone realize the error of their ways, but it's so easily tangled up in sin. The more we are talking, the more likely it is that we are kind of putting our own words, our own thoughts, our own perspectives, our own desires above that of the other person. This reminds me of James, I think it's in chapter 1, where it talks about being quick to listen and slow to speak. The prudent hold their tongues. The slower I am to speak, typically the more helpful that is. And this is hard as a mom of little ones. I mean, I've got 4 kids ages 4 and under, and there are many times when it's pure chaos and it's loud and someone is going to get hurt if I don't intervene. They're pushing, they're shoving, they're being preschoolers. And I need to do something. And they literally don't hear me because they are so loud. And it's so easy then to get in this, well, I need to say more or I need to say it louder. And it's almost impossible to do that without combining it with some amount of anger or frustration. And now we're moving in the direction of sin instead of the direction of helpfulness or appropriateness. And it's a hard balance there of, well, how do I hold my tongue but still intervene, get your attention, make you stop, hurting each other or being cruel or whatever it is that might be going on. And obviously there are many times where it's really just that they're not doing what I would prefer them to do. It's not necessarily always a safety concern, but there are definitely those times where taming the tongue does not necessarily mean I'm not going to speak. It means I'm going to speak in a way that is controlled. That I'm not just going to be multiplying my words for the sake of winning the argument or making my point. I'm not going to be holding my tongue to give the silent treatment or because, yelling is absolutely always and forever wrong. I mean, there's a time to yell when your kid is running into the street or when your toddlers are pushing each other off the couch. I mean, there are times where holding our tongue would be wrong. It's taming the tongue that we are aiming for. Learning how to use our words. What words do we choose? What tone of voice do we use them in? What's the purpose and the goal and the motivation when we are disciplining or interrupting or correcting someone, especially someone that we love? So I do not have all the answers to this. I do have a lot of, I think, insight and wisdom and experience because I've been a counselor now for over 10 years. But we all know that when you come home and it's your kids and it's your emotions and it's your life that's feeling maybe chaotic or out of control, it's a lot harder. But this proverb is such a helpful place to start. To be intentional about how am I using my words? How many words are there? The more that I'm saying, the more likely it is I'm giving into my emotions or I'm letting my pride lead me. But holding my tongue, unless, of course, it's a situation when that would be the wrong decision, but more often than not, holding my tongue, it allows the other person to maybe come to a different conclusion. It allows me to be quick to listen and to understand their perspective or what's going on for them. And it allows me to get control of my own emotions. That's, I think, part of the prudence it's talking about here is that if I bite my tongue and I pause, then instead of reacting to the situation with emotion or with pride, I can respond to the situation with logic and purpose. And there is a big difference there. And so I would encourage all of us, myself included, 100%. And when I'm thinking about the how-to of taming my tongue, this one proverb does not explain all of it, but it is such a helpful starting point. Sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues. May we hold our tongues. May we take that pause, get ourselves under control, get our emotions in check, check on our pride and what is motivating me to speak or to act, and then choosing our words intentionally. What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? For what purpose? For what end am I going to say it? If we think back to what we talked about on Tuesday of using our words to build others up according to their needs, to benefit those who listen. We need to be purposeful and intentional as we are working on taming our tongues. But my friend, all of this is rooted in a changed heart. It is out of the overflow of our hearts that our mouths speak. And we need to let our hearts be filled with Jesus, filled with the Holy Spirit, changed by the resurrected Lord and his presence in our life. It is that changed heart that actually equips us and leads us in taming our tongues. And if you don't have that relationship with the Lord, if you have not experienced him changing you, growing you, strengthening you, and helping you, then I would encourage you to dive deeper into the Bible and dive deeper into prayer and spend that time with him. Connect at a local church, talk with a friend or a pastor or a counselor. And if you're just, you're walking down that path, you just don't really feel very confident when you are reading the Bible or praying, it's not a very regular habit in your life, head over to that freebies page that I mentioned earlier, loveyourpeoplewell.com/free. On the freebies page, there's a 45-day Bible and prayer guide that will get you started here. Building that intimacy and that habit of spending time with the Lord. Because as he changes your heart, you will find yourself more and more and more able to tame your tongue, to use your words intentionally for good and for beauty and for the blessing of your husband and your kids and your family. So just a few thoughts there around the how-to, pulling especially from Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19. But we will close out there. And I want to extend an invitation to you as we are wrapping up our conversation today, because we're getting toward the end of the month, which means Easter is coming. So my first invitation to you would be, if you're wondering about how to talk about Easter, celebrate that with your kids, I have a very simple printable over on the Love Your People Well website, an Easter story cards package that you can download and print and just walk through the stories of Easter, Jesus's experience in that final week, and then being arrested and killed and resurrected. And so that might be a great resource for you. And as we're wrapping up the month, we're going to move into April and have a brand new challenge inside the Faith Fiver Club, which is our Patreon community, a wonderful and easy way to support this podcast and this ministry and get a lot of extra perks in the process. There's a new workbook and a private podcast every month diving into a different challenge, a different monthly theme for family relationships and building up our home life and our family life. And so I would invite you to join us there inside the Patreon community, which we call the Faith Fiver Club. I'll put links and all of that there in the podcast description. But again, you can head to loveyourpeoplewell.com and learn more about that, or grab those Easter story cards, or find a freebie. Lots of resources there, but we're getting to the end of the month. And so I wanted to invite you to join us and deep dive into the Faith Fiver Club for April. And I just wanted to highlight that here at the end. We're not quite at the end of the month, but we are getting close because, my friend, time goes so fast. And I think that's why it always feels so urgent to me that I'm using my words well, because we can't get back this time. Once a word is out there, you can't erase it. You can't erase the memory of it. You can't take it back. And we want every word that we speak in our homes to be fruitful and wise and life-giving. And we do that by learning how to tame the tongue. So again, that was Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19 that we were diving deep into today. And then we talked through some other scriptures in our last episode. So again, you can circle back and get more there. But that is all we have for today. Grab all your resources over at loveyourpeoplewell.com. And we'll be back next week with more biblical encouragement and practical tips to help you love your people well. Until then, hugs and blessings to you, my friend. I'll talk to you soon. I'm so glad you joined me today for this episode of the Love Your People Well podcast. If you found it helpful or encouraging, please leave a written review to encourage me, but also to help the show grow. You can even copy the link to this episode and text it to a friend. Don't forget to grab all your resources at loveyourpeoplewell.com and join us inside the Faith Fiver Club for extra perks every week.